What is up, people? We are back with another training video. So I haven't posted a training video in maybe 2 weeks. So this is my upper session, which is a pull focus, and I am starting off with some lateral raises. So I've gotten a bit leaner now, so these are starting to look quite cool, if I do say so myself. So lateral raise is a very common exercise, very commonly performed poorly. A lot of people start to lead with their hands, but you can see here I'm really only coming up as far as my elbow is allowing me. So thinking about leading with the elbows here and keeping my hands down, right, and a little bit of a forward lean. I'm allowing for a slight bit of body English as well, just to get into that top position. So with the dumbbell lateral raise, the top position is going to be the hardest, which is also where we are weakest. Whereas at the bottom there's pretty much like no tension. Now usually I would opt for cables, but like the cables in this place, they're usually quite busy, and the close cable stack here is pretty dire. So just opted for dumbbells just for the sake of ease. So 4 sets of these to start within the 8 to 12 rep range. And I'm doing them first before any other movements. The reason being is like delta, I suppose they're one of my weak body parts, and I'm definitely seeing that now as I have gotten leaner. And you know, if you are looking to prioritize body part, you're probably better off to start with it first, once it's not going to compromise the rest of your session as well. That's an important consideration. So my second exercise is my first compound. So I'm doing a T-bar row. You'll notice I just have that bench or step set up underneath me. That is essentially just to get me a little bit closer to the actual weights themselves, because the foot platform behind me, like I feel very unstable if I'm just using that platform, because like you can see even there in this clip here, the actual foot platform itself is very narrow. I can't get a huge degree of stability through my feet. And with a lot of compound exercises, like if you can't get your feet rooted into the ground, you're gonna feel a lot less tension within your upper body. So I want to get myself in a position where I'm able to shift the most amount of load with the greatest amount of control, and that's in this position here with the step underneath me. So I've got 3 sets here, maintaining the weight on this pretty decently. I'm pretty happy with the fact that, you know, I'm still able to like do 3.5 plates or 70 kilos. It is a very difficult exercise, so I'm very surprised when I see people who are doing like, you know, 5 plus plates on it. Maybe I'm just weak, who knows. So after that then I'm onto some neutral grip pull downs. So you'll notice with a lot of the pulling exercises here, I'm using my straps. So if you are doing any kind of pulling movement in the gym for your back, you should probably be using straps, because you're going to be limited by your grip strength, and you will know that if you watch the gym bag video. So you can go back to that video and watch that if you haven't watched it, just to hear the rationale behind it. But with these pull downs here, I'm really thinking about dragging that elbow into the hip, okay? And you can see the actual handle I'm using. So it's a wider grip, neutral handle, I suppose you call it, compared to like the typical V-bar that people use. The V-bar that most people use is just simply too narrow, and you're not going to get a really clear path of motion between the upper arm towards your side. You're going to be in a huge degree of internal rotation, which is going to limit the amount of actual lat involvement you can get, because the line of pull is not going to be as efficient as it would be as if you had your arms in a more kind of in a wider kind of position, okay? Because with the lats, we're really looking to have that arm as close to the side as possible. If you're just stand by your side right now and drag your arms into your hips and with your hands straight forward, but that should be the position that you're looking to have. You should have a handle that is going to be at least around your kind of torso width, or just slightly more than your torso width, or just slightly under. If it is really narrow like that V-bar, unless you have the body of a 10-year-old female, well then, like, you know, it's probably a bit too narrow for you. One thing to note as well is, like, look at my final few reps of my sets here. I'm still making sure that I'm training with hard sets. So if you are in a dieting phase, right, your goal here is to maximize muscle retention, and like really, if you're looking to gain muscle either, one of the kind of key determinants of that is going to be the intensity at what you train at, okay? So your sets should be difficult, those last few reps should be slow, If your last reps are not slow, you're probably not training with enough load or enough effort. So yeah, if your reps are very fast from start to finish, especially from first set to last set, it could be good. It could be a good chance that you're just underloading your sets. So what I've done here in this actual session here, I've recorded like my first and last sets, just so you can see the difference between my first set and then my last set in terms of how fast the reps move. So this is my fourth exercise, is it? I'm not really counting this in my head, but this is my last set of these machine chest press. I was doing an incline plate loaded press, but the actual machine itself started to irritate my shoulders, so I axed it and added this in. It's nice to actually be doing a pressing movement on a machine, I'm not gonna lie, because like for so long I've just been doing bench press. So to be able to do this and, you know, safely fail or safely push something so close to failure is quite a nice kind of change from just the bench press. Because you know yourself, if you push a bench press to failure with no spotter, you know, you're pretty much risking your life. After that, then we have some single arm low rows. So I do like to include some single arm work within my back training. I do have a stronger and a weaker side, like most people will. So, you know, ensuring that I'm prioritizing a little bit of kind of single arm work in there is going to be key for just making sure I develop symmetrically. So key things to know here is see that right foot, I have it stabilized far down on the platform, just to give me a little bit more stability, obviously stabilized. And then the opposite foot I have just on the ground there, and that's just to ensure that my torso is not rotating too much. And I find if I have both feet up there, I don't feel quite as set as I would if I had one foot outside me and one foot on the foot platform. Another thing with the actual execution of this exercise, so again, I'm trying to bias more so the lats. So the lats, I'm really going to be focused on keeping that elbow down and dragging it down into my hip, versus if I wanted to target more kind of upper back musculature, I'd be looking at almost kind of pulling with a more kind of abducted arm pat, so my arm would be further away from my body, whereas here you can kind of see I'm kind of flexing to the sides slightly, so I'm trying to fully shorten that lat at the bottom, because the lats do help to laterally flex the torso, and dragging the elbow down, so keeping the elbow as close to my body as possible, as well as pushing it down. It's going to make sure that I'm really starting to load those lats. Just one thing to note is if you're sharing with people, make sure that you check the weight you're using, because the lads who are on it before me had it a little bit heavier and I forgot to change it. You'll just see those kind of like little pink dumbbell I have on top of the stack. The reason I am using that pink dumbbell, you will see on my lat pull down as well, is just to micro load the movement. So the smallest jump on the actual plates, and it is with a lot of stacks in gyms, is going to be like 5 to 10 kilos. I think the jump on this one is maybe 6 or 7. So I'm just using that little 2 kilo weight just to micro load the movement, because the jump between the 45 to the 51, it's a little bit too heavy. Whereas if I can just, you know, load up that 2 kilo, it means that I'm still able to perform the sets for the desired rep range without necessarily having to force any kind of strength. Okay, so it's a good idea to micro load stacks if you can. You can use a dumbbell on top like that, or you can just put like a plate on top of the pin, and that works just as well. So into our second last exercise here, so just some preacher curls. So with the preacher curl, I do like to perform single arm too. I find, and a lot of people will find this too, is when you're performing them with the actual barbell, having your hands in that fixed position, it just kind of feels a little bit awkward. And again, like, you know, you're gonna have a stronger side that starts to take over. Whereas with this variation here, single arm, I can really just focus on one side at a time. And like, I would think that you get better mind muscle connection here when you're trying to focus on one arm at a time versus dual. So with my body position, I am shifting over to one side, and this is just going to allow me to also align up the joints, so align the wrist with the elbow and the shoulder. And that's not really something you can do if you are using like a straight bar or an easy curl bar, because, you know, you're going to have a good degree of internal rotation there. The elbows are going to start to fall out to the side, and that's going to misalign the way that you're curling with the actual way that the force of the barbell is going to be going. So if you are looking to perform preacher curls, I would highly recommend performing them single arm. So leaning towards the side, and with the opposite side, I'm trying to brace into that pad, so I want as little movements from other places, right? And that's kind of what you should be thinking about when you're performing all your movements. Really, you're really just trying to brace everywhere else that is not working. So stability is huge if we do want to ensure that we're outputting high forces with the movements, and we are ensuring that we're keeping a lot of tension on the target muscles without unnecessary body parts moving around. All right, so this was my last set of these. I believe I dropped down. I was using the 17.5, so I dropped down to the 15s just because I was pushing a little bit too close to failure. Like I think on the second set I maybe got like 7 reps per side with 1 assisted, so I just dropped down, and like 2.5 kilos down from 17.5. That's a huge percentage jump. So this set was like, it was still difficult, but I made it to the top of the rep range. So my rep range here is 8 to 12. So yeah, difficult set nonetheless, but you know, they're meant to be difficult. And then final exercise, I have some face away curls. So really do enjoy this movement. So with the preacher curl, right, you're going to be training your bicep in a more shortened position, or it's going to be harder in the shortened position. So with our elbow flexed, with our shoulder flexed. So in this position here, my shoulder is more extended because the elbow is behind the body. So it's going to challenge the biceps in a more lengthened position. So it's a good idea, if we are training the biceps, to train them in like a position where the bicep is going to be lengthened, shortened, and through the mid-range. So mid-range would be like, you know, just your typical hammer curl, which is going to challenge the mid-range portion of the bicep a lot more. So yeah, adding in a lot of like variety for biceps and kind of smaller muscle groups is, well, for most muscle groups, to be honest, is pretty key. It does kind of keep training interesting, but as well it's going to allow for full muscular development as well. So if you find that you're only ever training muscles in short or lengthened positions, whereas like the bias would be towards lengthened because you've got more like, you know, potential for hypertrophy there, you do want to still have full range development. So making sure that your exercise selection is set up like that will definitely allow for that. Okay, so final set of this exercise, final set of the workout. I hope you have enjoyed the commentary, and yeah, we are at 9 weeks out now, so things are going to get interested, and I'm going to start getting shredded. So I will catch you in next week's video. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe.